Let me ask you something very honestly. Have you ever met someone who speaks a lot about wisdom, but their words leave you feeling heavy instead of healed? Let me begin with a simple thought. Life does not hurt us all at once. It hurts us slowly, gently, sometimes so quietly that we don't even realize when the wound was created. And as years pass, we collect experiences, some beautiful, some painful. Age gives us stories, but wisdom decides which stories should be carried forward and which should be gently laid down. Many people believe that maturity means speaking freely about everything they have lived through. But true maturity is not about how much you reveal. It is about how much you have healed. When pain is still raw inside us and we share it openly, it does not become wisdom, it becomes weight. And that weight does not remain with us alone, it silently falls on the people who listen. There is a subtle difference between sharing to heal and sharing to relieve frustration. When bitterness from the past is repeatedly spoken, it slowly shapes our present relationships. The listener begins to feel cautious, guarded, unsure. Trust does not grow in an environment filled with unresolved hurt. Love needs emotional safety, not emotional dumping. Another thing we often forget is that comparison steals peace. When the past is constantly glorified or criticized, the present loses its value. Every relationship, every phase of life deserves to be met freshly, without the shadow of old disappointments. Carrying yesterday into today is like trying to walk forward while constantly looking backward. Eventually you will stumble. Sometimes people overshare sacrifices, struggles, and suffering not to inspire but to seek validation. There is nothing wrong with having pain. The mistake is turning pain into identity. Healing happens when we sit with ourselves, reflect, and grow, not when we replay the wound again and again in conversations. There is also a quiet loss that happens when boundaries disappear. When everything is revealed without discernment, respect slowly fades. People don't value what is constantly available. Emotional privacy is not secrecy, it is self-respect. Knowing what to protect is a sign of inner strength. And then there is projection, giving others the responsibility to fix what we never healed within ourselves. When expectations are born from past pain, disappointment becomes inevitable. No one else can compensate for inner wounds that need personal awareness and compassion. Silence, when chosen consciously, is powerful. It is not suppression, it is understanding. The calmest people you will meet are not those who had easy lives, but those who made peace with difficult ones. They speak less because they have resolved more. So remember, this wisdom is not measured by how much you say, but by how gently you live. Heal first, speak later. Let your words come from clarity, not from chaos. When awareness guides expression, relationships deepen, hearts feel safe, and life becomes lighter. That is not just maturity, that is freedom. Let us reflect on something quietly. Time does not automatically make us wise. Time simply gives us memories. What we do with those memories decides whether we grow lighter or heavier inside. Some people grow older with grace, while others grow older with layers of unresolved pain. The difference is not in what they faced, but in how they processed it. There is a tendency to believe that sharing everything is a sign of openness. But openness without awareness can slowly damage relationships. Not every experience needs to be narrated, and not every truth needs to be announced. Some truths are meant to be understood privately before they are ever spoken publicly. When words come from unhealed emotions, they carry disturbance, not depth. Often, past disappointments quietly shape present behavior. When old wounds are discussed repeatedly, they create fear where there should be trust. The listener may not say it out loud, but they begin to feel cautious. They start wondering whether they too will someday become another painful story. Love cannot breathe freely in such an atmosphere. Comparison is another silent thief. When the past becomes a constant reference point, the present never gets a fair chance. Every phase of life has its own purpose, but when yesterday dominates today, gratitude disappears. Peace is not found in reliving what was lost, but in honoring what is now. Many people speak about sacrifices and struggles expecting appreciation, sympathy, or validation. While pain deserves compassion, constantly showcasing it keeps us stuck in it. Healing requires courage. The courage to sit with discomfort, reflect honestly, and release what no longer serves us. Growth is an inner process. It cannot be rushed through conversation alone. There is also wisdom in restraint. Boundaries protect dignity. When emotional details are shared without discretion, respect slowly erodes. This does not mean becoming closed or cold, it means being conscious. Emotional maturity lies in knowing whom to speak to, what to speak, and how much to speak. Sometimes we unknowingly place our emotional burdens on others. We expect them to compensate for what we never resolved within ourselves. This creates pressure, unrealistic expectations, and eventually disappointment. No relationship can survive if it is used as a healing tool instead of a space for mutual growth. Silence, when chosen with understanding, becomes a form of self-care. It allows clarity to emerge. The most composed individuals are not those who escaped suffering, but those who made peace with it. They do not speak less because they have nothing to say. They speak less because they have learned what truly matters. Life becomes simpler when we learn this art. Heal before you speak. Reflect before you reveal. Let your words come from awareness, not agitation. When expression is guided by wisdom, relationships strengthen, respect deepens, and the heart feels lighter. That quiet balance is not suppression, it is true emotional freedom. Let us pause for a moment and look inward. Life gives everyone experiences, but it does not give everyone the ability to process them wisely. Some people turn experiences into lessons, while others turn them into lifelong burdens. The difference is subtle, yet powerful. It lies in awareness. As we move through different phases of life, we gather memories of joy, loss, success, and disappointment. These memories shape us, but they should not chain us. When the past is carried without reflection, it quietly controls our present. And often, without realizing it, we allow old pain to speak through our words. There is a common belief that expressing everything brings relief. But expression without healing does not free us, it entangles us further. When unresolved emotions are repeatedly shared, they do not lose their intensity, they gain an audience. And pain with an audience tends to grow, not dissolve. One of the most delicate aspects of maturity is understanding emotional timing. Just because something is true does not mean it needs to be spoken now. Wisdom is not about honesty alone, it is about compassion. Words should not only be true, they should be necessary and kind. Otherwise, they can leave wounds instead of wisdom. When past disappointments dominate conversations, they begin to shape perceptions. The present moment feels unsafe and the future feels uncertain. Relationships thrive on trust, and trust requires emotional stability. No one feels secure when they are constantly reminded of what went wrong before. Another challenge is attachment to suffering. Sometimes people unknowingly hold on to pain because it has become familiar. They speak about it repeatedly, not realizing that they are reinforcing it. Healing begins when we stop revisiting the wound and start learning from it. Growth happens when pain is transformed into insight, not identity. There is also beauty in emotional privacy. Keeping certain experiences within ourselves is not weakness, it is wisdom. Boundaries protect self-respect. When everything is shared without discernment, value diminishes. Just as silence gives music its depth, restraint gives relationships their strength. Often, expectations placed on others are born from unhealed pasts. We want people to fill emotional gaps that only self-awareness can address. This creates pressure and leads to disappointment. No relationship is meant to be a replacement for inner healing. It is meant to be a partnership in growth. Silence, when chosen consciously, allows clarity to settle. It gives space for reflection and understanding. The calmest individuals are not those who avoided hardship, but those who accepted it, learned from it, and moved forward without bitterness. They speak with purpose, not impulse. So remember this gentle truth. Healing is an inner journey. Speak when your words can uplift, not when they are still carrying weight. Let reflection come before revelation. When awareness guides expression, peace naturally follows. And in that peace, life feels lighter, relationships feel safer, and the heart finally learns to rest. Take a moment and reflect on how quietly life shapes us. Not through dramatic events alone, but through small moments, words spoken, expectations unmet, hopes broken, lessons learned. Over time, these moments gather inside us. Some turn into wisdom, others remain as unhealed impressions. And it is these unhealed impressions that often speak louder than our awareness. Growing older does not automatically mean growing wiser. Age gives experience, but wisdom comes only when experience is processed with patience and understanding. When life's disappointments are not reflected upon deeply, they begin to influence how we see people, how we speak, and how we relate. Slowly, without intention, the past starts directing the present. There is a fine line between sharing and oversharing. Sharing brings connection, but oversharing can quietly drain it. When emotions are still unsettled and we speak from that space, our words carry restlessness. The listener may hear the story, but they also feel the heaviness behind it. Relationships do not flourish where emotional chaos is frequently displayed. Often, people speak about past struggles to feel understood. That desire is human. But when pain becomes the main topic of identity, growth pauses. Healing does not happen by repeating the story, it happens by understanding the lesson. The moment we stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" transformation begins. Another subtle challenge is comparison. When we constantly measure the present against the past, dissatisfaction becomes habitual. Every phase of life has its own rhythm, but comparison disrupts harmony. Peace comes when we allow each chapter to stand on its own without dragging old pages into new stories. Boundaries play a silent but powerful role in emotional maturity. Not everything that is felt needs to be expressed. Restraint is not suppression, it is awareness. Just as a river flows best within its banks, emotions remain healthy when guided by discretion. When boundaries are absent, self-respect slowly erodes, and so does the respect of others. Sometimes expectations placed on people are rooted in old wounds. We hope others will compensate for what was missing before, but no one else can complete an inner process that requires personal reflection. Relationships are meant to be spaces of shared growth, not tools for emotional repair. Silence, when practiced consciously, becomes deeply nourishing. It allows emotions to settle and clarity to arise. The most composed individuals are not those who had easy journeys, but those who accepted difficult ones without allowing bitterness to define them. They speak thoughtfully because they have learned the cost of careless words. Life becomes lighter when we learn this balance. Heal before you express, reflect before you reveal. Let words come from understanding, not from unresolved emotion. When awareness guides speech, relationships feel safer, respect deepens, and peace becomes a natural state. That quiet strength is not withdrawal from life. It is a sign of true inner maturity. Remember this: not every truth needs a voice. Not every pain needs an audience. Not every story needs to be told. Heal first, understand later. Speak only when your words can heal, not hurt. Because maturity is not about age, maturity is about emotional discipline. And when discipline meets wisdom, life becomes lighter, relationships become stronger, and peace becomes your natural state. Thank you. Stay aware, stay gentle, stay wise,